everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today, y'all don't know the backstory, but today, we have been through so much. I have with me Mr. Frank James Jr. He's a leadership consultant, and he's the author of The Gifted Leader. He has made so much accommodations to hang out with me today, and I appreciate him so much. So thank you, and welcome to the show, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm incredibly excited to be here. And just like she said, what we had to go through to get here, I was determined to ensure that we made this happen. So I cannot wait to see how the day unfolds. I'm excited.
Great. So like I said in the opening, you have a book out called The Gifted Leader. I want to know, how long has it been out?
The Gifted Leader released on March the 20th of this year. So it's been out for a couple of months now. And to be quite honest with you, it has kind of taken me a little by surprise. I wanted to write the book originally because I wanted to share my story. I wanted to share what I believe to be my gift, which is leadership to the world. And I was like, what better way to do this than to put it in a book? So I did that, and it has gone viral. So yeah, since March 20th it's been out.
Awesome. So we're just in the beginning stages. So I can't wait to see until, a year, 2 years from now where this takes off and goes. Leadership is one of those skill sets that people don't realize in every avenue, every facet of life. We are practicing leadership skills, and some of us get it and some of us just don't get it. And whew, those that don't get it, I pray for them, but
it's a struggle.
it's a struggle. But I want to ask you something, because the title of your book, The Gifted Leader, implies that there is something called the ungifted leader as well. I'm wondering, how do we discern whether it be in a job, a community organization, or even a relationship, because people don't really understand that leadership is in relationships as well. How do we discern when we have ran into one of these people we call ungifted in leadership?
Great question. So I would have to say, usually those people stick out like a sore thumb. It's not really something that you have to do a lot of digging. It's usually very abrupt. It's in your face. I tell people leadership is one of the things that lives on the inside of you. It is not really something that can be taught. There are aspects of leadership that can be taught, but leadership in its purest form is an innate ability that you have on the inside of you. So when you see people and they are functioning in these roles, and they are stressed out, they are always yelling, screaming, they are unaccommodating, they are just seem miserable and unhappy. Those are definitely characteristics of people who are not gifted, and probably are in that position because of maybe nepotism, because, hey, I need to do this for my life. And even in relationships, like you said, leadership is a huge part of relationships. And I think when we talk about leadership and relationships, sometimes people don't want to have that conversation. Because when you say leadership and relationships, usually people say, the man is in charge and the man is the head of the household. And then people misinterpret exactly what that means. So for me, and I talk to my wife about this often, leadership is something that you have to kind of weave in and out of in everything that you do. Like, sure, yes, I'm the man of my house. Yes, I do lead my family, but there are many aspects of how we function as a unit to where I am the secondary and she takes the lead. And I think that's hard for some people to do, both in relationships and at work. And those are definitely characteristics that help to make a gifted leader. And if you're not comfortable enough with saying, you know what, this is not my strong suit, this is not the area where I thrive, I'm going to let you do this and I'm going to support you, then you're not gifted. You're pretty ungifted at that point.
And I think that's some leaders miss it, how vital, how important it is to have that trait, to be able to say, I don't really know what I'm doing here. This is not really my strong suit, but I see that you're better at it. So let me give you the steering wheel at this moment in time. It doesn't take away from me being a leader, like you said, especially in relationships. Sometimes, you have this feeling of, I'm the man, I'm supposed to do this or whatever. But I think leadership, it ebbs and flows,
Yes.
and that's the beauty of, like being a leader, is being able to say, I don't know, I have no clue what is supposed to happen right now, but
Right.
you go ahead and drive the car right now. I'm gonna sit in the passenger seat. As long as we get to the destination, that is fine with me.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
I want to, and we were talking about leadership, and you mentioned it quite briefly, real quick. Leadership has been with you for quite some time. Um,
Mhm.
just curious, in your early journeys in leadership, how do you remember, how do you recall being thrown into it, or any interesting stories, or how did your leadership journey begin?
Um, I have been in leadership probably like from birth, not even joking. I have always, I remember my mom always telling me, like, as soon as you could walk, you were coming to get people, like, come here, let me show you this, or let me show you this. And even when I didn't know what to do with these toys, I always wanted to show people, like, let me help you with this. And my mom had to tell me, let me show you how to help people, so you can
Mm,
do it. So it started at a very, very young age. But the first time that I was officially and formally in leadership was, I think I was 14. I was 14 years old, and I had just went to high school, and my school started this after school. It's called the After School Safety Program, SAFETY, and that was an acronym for something I can't remember what it is now. But we started this program, and they were like, we have the administrators, we need student leaders who can come in and get people excited about this program and get people to join. And they were like, we know the perfect person. Let's call on Frank. So obviously, when they first called on me, I'm like, what do you want me to do? You want me to? And they were like, Frank, we just want you to be you. And I'm like,
mm-hmm,
oh, I can do that. Just
mm-hmm.
be me. That was easy. So I did that. It was, again, that program was super successful. It stayed. I think the school is closed now, but it stayed until long after I graduated high school.
Wow.
A pretty successful program. So that's probably the first time that I was introduced officially
To
into leadership, when I was
leadership.
14.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a couple of times about your wife, so we can all assume that you're married.
Mhm.
So, how long have you been married?
Almost 9 years. This October, it'll be 9 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, going into marriage, your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and concepts about marriage going into it versus now 9 years later, what adjustments or what learning lessons about leadership have you learned?
Oh God. So the
So God.
first the first 6.5 years of my marriage, I was a terrible leader. I was always very good in leadership at work,
Mm-hmm.
but that did not translate into marriage at all.
Mm.
I had this idea because of my upbringing, as I'm sure many people do. I do come from a Christian household, so church was very big in what we did. And in the church that I grew up in, we weren't really allowed to ask questions. It was, this is what the preacher says, this is what we go by, this is what we believe, the end. So I grew up not asking any questions. And that translated into my marriage.
Mhm.
I translated literally, the man is the head of the household, period, the end. And it was awful. It was, I mean, I was probably the worst. I always tell my wife, now I appreciate you for sticking it out with me, because I was a terrible leader. I was a terrible husband because of this idea and this mentality that I had. You have to listen to me. You
Mm.
have to respect me, and you have to do what I'm saying because I am the leader. And the problem wasn't that what I was saying wasn't necessarily wrong. How I was saying it, and the message that I was really trying to get was, hey, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I just know that I'm supposed to be in charge, and I kind of need you to let me be in charge. That's what I was trying to convey, but it came out very authoritarian. You're going to listen to me, and it was awful.
Mm.
And then, we got to the 6.5 year mark, and, I'm getting all of these praises and accolades and promotions and bonuses and stuff at work. but then my home life was miserable. And I'm like,
Mm,
why do I have greatness happening everywhere
mm.
except for at home? And it was because you kind of suck at leadership at home. So my wife and I, we started talking, and then we just started doing everything different. I was like, listen, I want to be a good leader at home. What does that look like to you?
Mm,
What does good leadership look like for your husband? Because we can put parameters on what it looks like as a husband, sure, but you have to do what works for your family, your
mhm.
unit. So once we had that conversation, and I even still stumbled after the 6.5, and I'm probably still going to stumble with some things again, but leaps and bounds we've come.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
I one of the things that I talk about, one of the principles in gifted leadership in my book is vulnerability, intentionality, and transparency. So even though that book was written to help people who are in leadership positions, that translates so heavily into my marriage,
Hmm.
because I remember talking to my wife one day, and it was super casual, and I remember her telling me, I can't cover what you don't expose to me. So you have all of these private thoughts, but if you don't expose them to me, I can't cover you. I can't pray for you. I don't know how to pray for you. And in my mind, because I'm the leader, I have to have it together all the time. But
Hmm.
that's just not true. That's
Hmm.
absolutely not true. So going into marriage, it was awful. Now we enjoy it. I know I do. She tells me she does, and I hope she's not lying to me.
Well,
So yeah,
we're gonna say thank you for her for sticking it out those first 6.5 years and not throwing in the towel.
right,
She saw the light at the end of the tunnel. So we want to say thank you to her for for
for
that.
sure.
And that's, I think, I do a lot of relationship counseling sessions, and one of the things I try to teach women is men want to internalize. They don't feel like they want to talk about it. So the fact that you've gotten to this place where this is my partner and I'm supposed to talk to her so she can cover me, she can pray for me, she could talk me through the madness, whatever. So that's a great, beautiful place that you guys have gotten to, a nice sweet spot, and it's only going to blossom from here. So
Thank you.
we're gonna come back, and it'll be 10-year, 15, 20-year, and all of that stuff. But
Can't wait.
um you were talking about you came from the church background,
Hmm.
and you were taught not to question anything. And it brings to mind, as I was preparing for the show today, I was looking through your Instagram, and you were giving some talking points in promotion for the book.
Hmm.
And one of the talking points that you had was leaders must be very careful to not surround themselves with like-minded people. It's very important to have diverse thoughts.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's human nature to want to be in a collective tribe where everybody has the same philosophy as
Hmm.
us. But how do we distinguish between, we have the same inner core values, but that doesn't mean that I have to see the path the same way as you? How do we do that? Differentiate that.
So, um, usually this happens on the negative spectrum of things, right? If you want to find out where cliques or groups of people happen, it's usually a group of people who don't like the same person, or
Mm,
don't like this group of people's personality style. So that's kind of where that quote kind of derived from. But in leadership, what you have to understand is um, there are goals, there are sub goals, and then there's a journey, right?
mm,
So goals, sub goals, and then a journey. Those are
mm,
the three parts of how you determine if this is somebody that is like-minded with me or not. So the goal is the ultimate destination of where we're trying to get to.
mm,
This is what we want to do. This is the ultimate for us,
mm,
right? So you have two people that, hey, I want to get to Florida, for example. Okay, so the goal is the same. Then we have the journey. The journey is, how do we get there? We have this group of people saying, well, I want to fly. This group of people saying, I want to drive. And then another group of people saying, I want to take the train.
mm,
So those are different journeys. But all three of these people still want to get to Florida.
mm,
Three different ways of getting there, but the end goal is the same. So this is we can all meet because maybe we can fly, drive, and take a train, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have sub goals. So this is where the differentiation comes in your sub goals. Florida is our destination. That's our goal. That's where we're trying to get to be. But these people want to now road trip. Yes, I want to get there, but I also want to stop in Kentucky. Well, this group, I don't really want to stop in Kentucky because I'm on a time crunch. I want to
Mm-hmm.
get here like right away. So when you start having sub goals and the sub goals interfere with achieving the main goal, that's when you kind of determine, oh, okay, maybe these are not the people that I can vibe with because we have the goal and the journey together, but our sub goals don't mesh. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I explain this to people. And you don't want to have everybody that thinks the same way, because if everybody thinks the same way, we're gonna either all take the plane or
Mm-hmm.
take the car or the train. And then what about the beauty of everything else that we're missing?
Yes.
When you have a mix of people that brings their expertise and their this and their that, it just makes the journey so much better. Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be in the group with everybody that thinks like me. I want to be in the group with somebody that totally is in opposition of my perspective. Because let's talk about it. And I think that's hard for some people to do. That's why a lot of people, I catch them off guard, because when they come through and they're like, wait, you want to talk about this? Absolutely, I want to talk about this. I don't agree with you, but I'm open-minded.
Yes.
Let's talk, you know. And one thing that I said in the book, and I said anytime I'm coaching somebody, is my goal when I enter a room is to shift perspectives. My goal is not to get you to agree with me, but my
Mm-hmm.
goal is to say something that make you think about something in a different way. And I think when people hear that my goal is to shift perspectives, oh, he just wants everybody to agree with him. And that's not true, because I really, to be honest, I don't like yes men. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
people who are just like, oh, yeah, we're doing that because Frank said so. No, I welcome the pushback. I welcome the diverse thoughts. What do you think about this? Sure, this is what I believe is best, but let's talk about it. What can be
Mm-hmm.
different? How do we enhance this? How do we make it better? Because I'm all about making it better.
That's true. That's awesome. You know, because that's been my frustration a lot of times. You know, when you experience corporate culture, or even I've had conversations with family members, and we've always done it this way. My grandfather did it this way. My great grandfather did it this way, or the boss before me did it this way, or this has been the company policy for the last. But wait a minute, there's something different. You don't want to hear. There's something different. You know, maybe
Yeah,
this will be better. This will cut productivity in half, or what. Oh no, we've always done. So you want to keep new and fresh ideas, and be open minded, that hey, there might be something better. Maybe my way is not the best way, but
right.
human nature is such a tricky thing. We don't want to
It is.
hear.
And just really quick, I always tell people, is if you ever start a sentence with "we've always done it this way," you're in a dangerous spot. That's
Mhm.
a day, especially in leadership. That's a dangerous, dangerous position to have, because if you tell me we've always done it this way, I'm looking at your trajectory. I'm looking at your history. And if
Mhm.
you always done it this way, you're not showing a lot. Like
Mhm.
there's been no progression in what's happening. So when people say that, that's not really a good thing. That's
Yeah.
not. And people say that like and it's just like, I know you've done it this way and it's not working. So let's try something different. So so yeah, I tell people that a lot. Like,
Let's pick up the pace. Let's pick up the pace. Yeah, that's not working. Let's keep it. Now, in certain leadership environments, corporate company atmosphere, maybe even community organizations, possibly relationships, you have sometimes a setup where there's leaders of groups within leaders of groups. So for instance, at McDonald's, you might have the team lead for the morning shift, and you might have the team lead for the afternoon shift. At a corporate setting, you might have the leader, the supervisor over HR versus the supervisor over IT.
mhm,
Sometimes what we see is within this bigger organization, there are leaders competing for space. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I want to be known as the good leader. I want to, but and we're kind of competing. And how does a leader not fall into the pit of sacrificing the best for his team or his or her philosophy, uh, versus maybe like what the bad leaders are doing? Oh, I'm going to let everybody take a 2-hour lunch break, and we're going to cut corners, and we're not. How do you just stay firm and grounded versus these, when you're in a system where there's bad leaders just cutting corners and doing the worst?
Sure, great question. Another principle that I have in my book is influence, right? So, influence is one, I believe, of the 7 principles in gifted leadership. You have to, before I get to that, let me tell you a story. So, right now at my new job, I am working with, he's not even, I think he's been in this role for probably 7 months, 7 or 8 months or something. And I am new to the company. I've only been with the company for 3 weeks. They sought me out, and immediately when I met him and they saw how we vibe together, they were like, "Can you work with him? Because he's great. He just has these things that he doesn't do well," right? So
Mm-hmm.
the very first exercise that I did with him was I had him go to 3 people. I told him, I need you to pick somebody that you are close with, somebody that you never talk to, and then somebody that you report to. And I want you to ask all 3 of those people the same questions. What is my leadership style? How would you define my leadership style? How do I show up as a leader? And what is a challenge that I have in
Okay.
leadership? So when I had him go through that the first time, because he had to do it twice, so I asked him to do it the first time, even though he got selected 3 people in all 3 of those positions, all 3 of them were people that were cheerleaders for him. They were rooting for
Oh,
him.
oh,
So I said, okay, great. Thank you for getting this feedback. Now I selected 3 people and I want you to go talk to this person, and this person. Came back with a totally different set of feedback. And I asked him, why do you think this feedback was so drastically different from this feedback? And not that they gave him bad feedback, but it was real feedback.
mm,
You have got to talk to people who are going to give you the real, honest truth about who you are and how you show up. So, getting back to influence, leadership is influence, period. How you show up, how you do what you do, how you get people to buy into your vision is the influence in who you are. You can never, ever, ever compare yourself to what these other people are doing and what
mm,
other leaders are doing, especially when they are not good decisions, because everything that we do in life has a repercussion. It has a consequence. And when people hear consequences, they usually attach that with something negative. Consequences are not always negative.
mm-hmm.
Some consequences are both positive and negative, but it's about what do you want in the end. And I always tell people when I do my job, because I'm an auditor, that's what I get paid to do. So I have a very good eye on detail. And one of the feedbacks that I received, I took it as negative. People would tell me, "You're so thorough. You're just thorough." And I'm like, what in the world does that mean? And then when I went on and what they were saying to me was, "You don't miss anything. We get a full
Mm,
comprehensive idea of what's happening." And some people like that, some people didn't, but I never changed who I was and what I did, because this is the standard that we're trying to achieve.
mm,
And if you're not achieving the standard, it's going to be documented. And likewise, if you are, that's going to be documented as well. But I never changed. And people would tell me all the time, "The last auditor didn't do that. The last auditor didn't look at this. The last auditor didn't." You know what? That may be absolutely 1000% accurate. However, in this set of standard operating procedures, this
mm-hmm.
is how this should be done. And it needs to be done this way moving forward, or it's going to be
Say,
documented.
Mr. James is here today.
Yeah, for real. And it took a lot of people a long time to understand that concept, that I'm not them. I'm not those
Mm,
people. And it was difficult for me to get their buy-in because I was so different. I was so thorough,
mm-hmm.
and other people wasn't. But When I told them I was leaving, you would have thought that the city
Oh.
shut down. They
Oh.
were like, what? And I'm like, this whole time y'all were complaining about me being thorough. And they're like, oh, but we've gotten so much better since you've been here. And that was for me, that was the validation that I needed to hear, because
Mhm.
this whole time they were using this language of you're so thorough, but they were getting better.
Yes.
So never change, never compare what you're doing to some other people, because you want to be a standout, and you want to be a standout in a good way.
Mhm.
Because I know a lot of leaders that are standouts, but none of the standouts are positive. None of
Oh,
them.
yes.
So you want
Oh,
to mix
yes.
it on a good way.
Yes. I'm listening to you talk, especially when you were telling the story about the guy that they teamed you up with. It seems like leadership, one of the things about leadership or becoming an effective leader is being open to evaluation from your team.
Mhm.
And in my past years, quite a few times, I've been in company settings where they pass out these leadership evaluations,
Mhm.
anonymous. Tell us what you think or how we could be better or whatever. And it's always the same grumble from the team. I don't know why we're filling these out. They never do anything. They never make any changes or whatever. Um, how does leadership show the team that we really want to hear what you have to say, and we're going to really implement what you're talking about, what you're grumbling about? We're not going to just throw it to the side.
I am so glad you asked that question. And I hope every company that does this listens to what I'm about to say, because I have been one of those people. Even the last company that I just left, same exact thing. And I'm like, why do you want me to fill this out if you never take the information that I put on here and you put it into action?
Mhm.
So, a couple of things when it comes to this. At my old job, it was called a YVC, a Your Voice Counts
Mm.
survey. So, the last time I got this Your Voice Count survey, I I responded to the YVC, and I sent it to the president of our company, our regional manager, and our manager of operations. And I said to them, I was the one. Sometimes it takes somebody to be the one to start the conversation.
Mhm.
And fortunately, that's somebody who was me. So I sent this thing to them. I said, the name of this survey implies that our voice counts. I
Mhm.
have filled this out for 4 years, and I've seen a grand total of zero changes, zero talks about what was on here. And I do understand that I am one of 500.
Mhm.
But if you are going to send something out to me that says your voice counts,
Mhm.
I expect there to be some counting.
Mhm.
So the number one thing that companies have to do is follow up.
Mhm.
You got to follow up on the things that you send out to your people, because when you don't follow up, it makes people feel undervalued,
Mhm.
and then people don't want to do it. You don't get real honest feedback. So that's number one, you have to follow up. Number two, the visionary or the leader or the person that oversees the company has to be actively interested in making changes. If
Mhm.
that person, because one thing that I want everybody to realize about these surveys, sometimes they're a mandate. They're
I
mandated
see.
by the
I see.
corporate to happen so that they can say, we did this. But
Mhm.
you got to start asking some follow-up questions. Okay, we had this survey. What data did you gather from this survey? And I want
Mhm.
everybody to know that the data from this survey is not private. So if you ever take a survey like that and your company tells you that that is a private survey between just executive leadership, that is absolutely 100% false. They are not allowed to tell you whose answers these were, and they shouldn't even know because it's supposed to be done by a third party. But the data is open and should be open for everybody to
Oh.
see what was said. So ask for the data, follow up. And then the third and final thing is, understand that if this company is not willing to take something as small as your information about how the leadership is, then this is a company that is not serving you well. And I think it's time for you to start making some decisions and moving on.
Turning in some resumes.
Yeah, because if they're not, and that's something, it's not, leadership is significant. So I don't want to make leadership small, but that's something that can be rectified or addressed immediately. My concerns for my leader should be something that's talked about often. And if I am constantly submitting this survey to you and you're making no changes at all, then you simply do not care about me, my life, my family. And I don't want to work for somebody like that. I want to work with somebody that I am going to serve them and they are also going to serve me.
Awesome. Love that. And it's a mutual benefit back and forth. This whole workforce has become so one-sided these days. And, I just hate to see so many people around me just miserable going to work every day, just miserable. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can create work climates where people are healthy, thriving, growing, elevating and positions within the company or whatever. I just think we have here in the United States, I should say, we have an overwhelmingly unhealthy and toxic work culture sometimes, but that's why we have Frank James here to Frank James Jr. There's a third.
There is.
Okay, the legacy continues. But yes, that's why we have Frank James Jr. teaching these leaders how to do better. Now, Frank, before I go, I want to, get you some brownie points in with the wife here because, she stuck it out. So I want to make sure I mention the two of you have a company, TJF Productions.
Yes.
Is that the shirt I see?
Yes. This is one of the 3 shirts we have. This shirt says, "Now go and be gifted." If you have seen my book, seen my page on Instagram, "Now go and be gifted" is kind of tagline that came out with the book. And this goes to, it doesn't just speak to leadership. Whatever your gift is, I want people to get up, go, and be gifted. So this is one of the shirts we sell. My wife also has a children's book that she wrote, and she has some t-shirts that she has and some masks. Her book is called "This Skin of Mine." It is a beautiful, if you have a Black or brown or actually any colored child, or if you've ever struggled with accepting the skin that you're in, get this book. It's fully illustrated, but the message is so super powerful. And I'm so proud of her for doing this book, because at first she was like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And I'm like, "Babe, this message is huge. You got to get it out there." So, but yes, that is all. You can find all of that. My book, her book, our shirt line, all on our website at tjfproductionscompany.com.
Okay. And then I also, as I was roaming around trying to prepare for the interview, the two of you have a very transparent podcast. I was seeing couples in conversation, and everybody is just just laying it all on the line. I was like, I am so proud. I am so impressed. So the two of you guys have a podcast as well?
We do. Couples in Conversations, and Couples in Conversations, super funny story. I know we're out of time. Couples in Conversations, that podcast started out of a Facebook argument that my family and I were having about this meme that was posted. And, nobody really understands our family. We weren't really mad at each other, but if you were looking at our banter, it looked like we were like actually fighting. So I was like, "Hey guys, let's take this off Facebook and let's call." And I remember telling my wife a long time ago that I wanted to have a relationship podcast, and then it was just birthed from there. But it is, take a listen, because we don't even discuss the topic before. I send out the topic the night before to the entire panel, because there's a panel of people, but she and I do not discuss. So you guys hear the real walk. Sometimes we get into a whole disagreement on the podcast.
Yes, indeed. Because I was like, one sister, she was like, "Look, I didn't really like him," and I was like, "Whoa, that's her husband." But it is the real. I loved it.
It's great, and it gets crazier and crazier. I love it. I love doing it.
How often do you guys put that out?
That comes out every Monday. We are on hiatus until the beginning of August, and when we'll be coming out with season 4, but that airs on Monday nights. Monday
Awesome.
nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I love
And
it.
on that one, we are actually live. So we'll be live on Facebook. So we actually get questions while we're doing it from the audience, and we bring them into that conversation too.
Check it out. It was, I just was like, she said, oh, oh, somebody gonna be sleeping on the couch tonight. Like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, we have some of those moments like, oh, okay.
All righty, Frank. Let me ask you the random question, and I'm gonna let you tell everybody how they connect with you, pick up the book, and connect with the podcast and all that stuff. So let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. What superpower would you want to have?
Ooh, what superpower would I want to have? I would probably want to have flight. One of the things that I am working on is I'm a little tiny impatient. And sometimes when I want to get to places, I want to be there. I want to just wake up and I just want to get there. I don't want to wait. I'm just like, go, let me get there. So I would have to say flight.
Put on your Superman cape and just be in Paris or Dubai or whatever.
Yeah.
Like 2 seconds, right?
Just go. Just go.
All righty, Frank James Jr. The third has got big footsteps to fill, but I'm pretty sure he's going to come through. He's going to make the family proud. Mr. Frank James Jr., tell us how we connect with you, pick up the book and podcast and all this. So just let us have it.
So everything about me, my wife, my life is you can find on our website at tjfproductionscompany.com. On Monday nights, we do the Couples in Conversation podcast. I have a Gifted Leadership podcast that airs on Thursday mornings. My book, The Gifted Leader, and the Gifted Leader Workbook. I always promote the book, and the workbook has actually been wildly growing as of lately because the workbook helps you do the work. So the book is just my story. The workbook helps you put those principles into action, and it gives you like a step-by-step do this and some things to do. And I do want to tell you, if you do get that workbook, be honest with it. Don't cheat yourself. If you're going to make the investment and it's only $10, if you're going to make that investment in yourself, do it the right way. Don't go to a bunch of people that it's peaches and cream all the time. Go to some people that you have gotten some rough feedback from, and really do that work. So you can find both of those on our website, or you can find those on Amazon. If you don't like to read books, you like to listen to them, the book is on Audible as well. Okay. And it's also on ebook as well. So if you want to go to Kindle, you can get the book on Kindle as well. You can find me on Instagram at The Gifted Leader Book. And if you are interested in becoming a part of the Gifted Leader community on Facebook, just shoot me a message on there. I have a lot of impact leaders throughout the country on that group, and we just kind of share thoughts, ideas. A lot of groups don't allow you to promote on their pages, but mine, I encourage it because I want all of us to come on there. If you have a podcast, if you're writing a book, if you are a coach, if you, whatever it is, we have some of everybody on there, and they just promote and post stuff all the time. If you want to do that as well, that's on Facebook at the Gifted Leader Community.
Okay, great.
So that's how you find me.
Awesome. So just curious before we go, do you do any corporate training or team building training, big or small businesses?
Oh yeah, I probably should have mentioned that because that's kind of big for me right now. So right now I am offering virtual leadership coaching and conferences that I do. I have 2 hospitals and a school coming up here pretty soon. Leadership conferences. They're going to be so cool. One of them I'm actually going to fly back and I'm going to be in person. But yes, if you need information about that, just go to my website and click on my name, and then it'll ask you for bookings. Fill out that thing and it comes directly to me, and then I'll send you back pricing, what we do, what we can offer. And guess what? You may ask me something that I haven't done yet, but I am not close to finding out and researching and helping you in any way that I can, because I do truly have a desire to make an impact and help people be better people so that they can become better leaders.
Love it, love it, love it. And you just admitted leaders should always be in a state of constant evolution, constant growth. So I don't know it now, but give me a minute. I'm gonna figure it out and I'll be right back. So
Absolutely.
all righty, Frank. I have enjoyed you today. And like I said, y'all, one day we're gonna sit it down and put it in the book. But it took us forever to get to today.
Yes, it did.
But thank you for making time for me and hanging out for me. I truly had a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate what you're doing too. I've listened to yours too, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such great conversation.
Thank
So
you.
I'm excited. And thank you for doing this. And if any guys are apprehensive about getting that message from her, because I didn't even see it at first, I'm like, what is this? Just do it, because this has been a great time, and I think it's so needed in the times that we are living in the world today, because unfortunately they are taking our men out by the numbers. So let's talk about it. Let's get in front of it. Thank you for opening your platform up to me, and just having this platform in general. I'm excited. I'm excited about the future.
Awesome. I will continue to cheer for you guys until they put me 6 feet under. I truly believe you guys need more support, and I'm here to do it. So I'm gonna do my thing. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.
Bye, guys.